Live.
And
And
welcome to
welcome
the
to the
Zodiac
Zodiac
Lounge
Lounge.
from Stacy's Kitchen. Stacy Chuli was nice enough to lend us this beautiful kitchen for tonight's broadcast. And I'm very happy to talk to you about Strega. It is one of the oldest religions um, in the world. It is Italian and it's gone through many changes. And actually, what it's shown me in doing its history and studying it from its origins in Etruria through present day is that it's one of the most resilient faiths that I've ever encountered because they really went through some hell. Um, but we're going to start out with a short history lesson, and then we're going to make an herbal charm to the goddess Fortuna, who is now known in the Catholic Church as Our Lady of Abundance. So her energy is still alive. And then we're going to take what we made and turn it into a meal that's really delicious. So let's start at the beginning. Um, the Etruscans were a really advanced society, but what's odd is that we have their alphabet, but we have no documents. Early on the Italic Peninsula, they were in central and northern on the west, central and northern Italy on the west coast, and then they eventually went down the boot and went into Campania province, where a town called Benevento still exists today, and that is now the seat of Strega. If anybody wants to know anything about it, you can go there. They have a liqueur called Strega with a little witch on the label. It's one of their main exports. And one of the ingredients, it's very herbally. I tried it and I wasn't crazy about it, but it's great for cooking. Um, it's very herbally, but one of the ingredients in it is walnuts. And they have a sacred walnut tree that's about 400 years old in the center of town. It was a very interesting place to visit when I was in Europe, when I was researching all of this. Um, the early Etruscans, though, they were pretty fierce people. And what's interesting is that the reason we do have documented proof, it was not documented by the Etruscans, even though their alphabet is still there. It was documented by the early Romans because they conquered Etruria. And they stole the whole myth of Romulus and Remus from the Etruscans. And what's interesting to me is that their god, their goddess, the Etruscans had a main goddess. She was really tough. Her name was Acca Accalarenta. If you Google her, there is a surviving marble statue. She is beautiful. Um, she was also known as La Lupa, which means the wolf. And her mythology, or her story, if she was a real person, I'm not sure, because there are so many conflicting myths and varying myths that you don't know what to believe. But common sense will kind of bring you to what the most likely scenario is. A she-wolf is very protective of her young, and Acca was very fiercely protective of her people. So that's why she was their main squeeze. Now, what's interesting is I'm sure you've all seen photos of that famous bronze sculpture of the wolf suckling Romulus and Remus. Romulus and Remus were Etruscans, and they did an Etruscan ritual, and Remus left the magic circle, and then Romulus was supposed to beat him up or kill him or something. I'm not really sure of the details of it, but there was enmity between the brothers because of that. And then Acca or La Lupa threw them both in the Tiber and then raised them. She was later called, when Rome took over Etruria, they adopted their religion and they adopted her, but they renamed her Dea Dia, which means goddess of the day, goddess of the daylight, goddess of light, which is pretty interesting because she was very light, but she was really all about nurturing motherhood. Her children were her people in her land, very much like Hecate. And she suffered, unfortunately, the same vilification later on during the Inquisition that Hecate did, because now many uninformed people think Hecate only stands for vengeance and punishing and all that, but she doesn't. She was a solar goddess, and apparently so was Acca, because the Romans, the ancient Romans, named her goddess of the daylight, goddess of light. Hopefully we can recover some of her dignity tonight, learning a little bit more about her. They also adopted another one of the Etruscan goddesses, Fortuna. She was the goddess of wealth and prosperity. But she was interesting because they always said she can slap both ways, like me. Um, According to her literature, according to the early documents we have about her, when you appealed to Fortuna, you had to ask for modest prosperity because her whole thing was about the Wheel of Fortune, hence the name Fortuna. Because what goes up must come down. So if you're greedy and you go way up there, you're going to lose as much. Or if you get greedy, Fortuna's hand will take the prosperity away from you. If you wish for someone else to lose their wealth because of jealousy or something that isn't legitimate, she will take your wealth away and make you as poor as them and maybe give them a little bit of what you could have. So she was a pretty skitsy goddess. She was very cool, though. But the whole thing is about moderation, which I think is interesting that in the ancient world you knew it. Because the more money you had, the more dangerous it became for you. But everybody needed to do a little better. So her whole thing was to live with each other and share. And if you shared her charm, or if you incorporated her energy into food, as we're going to do tonight, whatever you give to the people, that people will consume the food with her energy in it. And by consuming it, they will then be blessed with her prosperity. But you, as the person who shared it with them so generously, will receive the same back tenfold. Yes, I still have these cards. So Rome became Christianized, mostly, I think, because of politics. And that's when all the trouble began. That's when everybody got vilified. So what happened is they could no longer do these rituals because in Etruscan times you always had a lit candle and a glass of water, as I do now, because we're going to be doing something in a little while. I also have a bottle of wine here, which I may or may not take a swig out of. I think I will. Because you never use wine you wouldn't drink. And I just wanted to make sure that I would drink it, and I certainly would. It's a nice Pinot Grigio. So what happened is, during the Inquisition, everything had to be hidden. So ritual tools became household objects. This is a substitute for the wand. So you could have it in your kitchen, and inquisitors would not understand that it was a magic wand. This is my knife, my Strega knife. I only use this when I'm cooking a Strega meal. And it's an ordinary knife, but I only use it for that purpose. And the reason being is that everything is secret. Now, when I was in Italy studying all of this, it took a really long time for them to trust me with the tradition. I think the most tight-lipped tradition that I encountered prior to Strega was the Native Americans. But they're blabbermouths compared to the Italians because of all of that, all the horrible things that happened to them in the name of religion. They are very closed about it. It took them forever to trust me. And actually, it was fun because training with them was like being a sous chef. There was a woman, Isabel, and I'll tell you about her later when we're cooking. She was a riot. She was really tough. The stereotypical stern, did everything 150%. When she loved you to pieces. When she hated you, she would torture you. She was the stereotypical European grandmother. She was just amazing, and she taught me so much, and I can't wait to share that with you. But back to this. Everybody had to go into hiding. We did have to have tools that look like everyday things. They also used the five-pointed star on their table or their altar when they were performing ritual, very much like present-day Wiccans do. But what they would do, because you never knew when the Gestapo or whatever you called them back then were going to come through the door, they actually cut it into a loaf of round bread. And then if the inquisitors come in, you're just having bread. You're just consuming it. So you're consuming the energy. And it's very much like puja in, among the Hindu pantheon. When I was learning all of that, when I was learning about Lakshmi and Ganesh and everybody, there was food and all the energy was brought down into the food and you consumed it and it lived in you and just emanated from you. And this is very much the same. And what's interesting is that the Etruscan alphabet does have some traces of early Near Eastern elements in it. A lot of Arabic characters are very, very similar. So it's sort of a fusion between Latin, Arabic, and Greek. So everything has to be prayed over. And like many people in Santeria and some of the other Afro-Caribbean religions, they mask things with saints. So that's why Fortuna is now Our Lady of Abundance. So you can have a statue of her on the table. My mentor, Isabel, had a stack of holy cards about that thick with a rubber band on them in the kitchen drawer next to her spoon and her knife. And she would put them out on the table depending on the work that we were doing. And I'm smiling because she was a riot. And I can't wait to tell you a little bit more about her later. So I did get initiated. I did take a vow that I would not betray the secrets of Strega, and I will not. But I can teach you the tenets, and I can teach you exactly how it's done without giving their words away. So for those of you at home who think that they might want to do this, you need to get a hold of Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. And in it, okay, for our charm, we're using basil and wine. So basil, and I have it written down here, the magical properties of basil is wealth and protection. Wine is about money. So that's how we work. And everything starts with the phrase, when you're empowering your ingredients, it starts with the phrase scongiuro te. Now, scongiuro, if you look it up in Google Translate or whatever translator you want to use, it says to implore. I implore you. Scongiuro te. I implore you. It really means I conjure you. Scongiuro is the root of the word conjure. So just give me a minute. I want to look in chat because I can't see across the room. I want to see if anybody has any questions. Later you want to use, it says to implore. Oh my God. I implore and you, my, there, okay. Who says that? Blasphemy. Hi, everybody. And no, it is not my kitchen. It is Stacy Chuli's kitchen, and she's going to be here. So here we go. So here's how we start. First thing you do is you need basil or basil, whatever you want to call it. In Italy, we call it basilico. So I'm using about 2 cups of rice, which you'll see. So you have to use your hands because your strongest tools are your hands, your spoon, and your knife. So with dried herbs, pour them into your hands, and then you start rubbing. You wake them up, and you say, I conjure you, O basil, so that you will bring your properties of prosperity and protection to this charm, and you will increase the wealth of anyone who has some of this in their drawer. This particular drawer charm was meant to be kept with your money. Either you can put a few grains in your wallet, a couple in your, if you have a safe, your jewelry box, wherever you keep money. If you have a store, you put a few grains in your register. And of course, I'm using my eye because I never measure when I cook, and I think we need a little more basil. So you're just basically waking it up. You're feeling the earth energy come up through your feet, through your whole body, down your arms, and into the basil that you're enchanting, and then you can sift it and conjure it even more. And you just really, really work with it until you feel it sparkling in your fingertips. It's just amazing. And then you have to take your magic wand. Sorry, Scott Wash, it's not as beautiful as the one you made me. But this is the wand that I've been using since 1982. And then you wake up your wine. It has to do with wealth. So I conjure you, O grape, O fruit of grape, to bring all of that wealth. And then you start clockwise. And you keep on stirring until you make a paste out of it. And it should be a little loose. I don't know if any of you can see the consistency of this. Because as the basil gets wet, it's going to expand a little bit. But also, you want it to soak into the rice. So now we have our basil and wine soup. It looks kind of thin. But we also have our rice. Now, you can use any kind of rice you want. I use jasmine rice because we're going to be cooking this later, and I'm really not in the mood to do all that stirring and cook risotto, so we're going to cook it like regular rice. But again, you bring your hands into it, and you feel that energy coming up through the earth and down your arms and into this, and you sprinkle it, and you're stirring clockwise. And I conjure you, rice, who started beneath the earth where all secrets are kept, and you have learned their secrets, and bring those secrets into this charm so that all who have some of it, who participate in this, will be blessed with wealth, with protection, with all the goods that we can do. And then gradually keep adding it, because you want to make sure that every grain is coated. I have 1,000 grains on the island right now. And eventually, you're going to have something that smells really good already. But every grain is going to have to be infused with the basil and the rice. And you just keep on folding. You keep on doing it clockwise. Almost there. Actually, I have the incantation here for the rice, because the woman who taught me did it in Italian. It was "Scongiuro te riso, tu che si il nostro corpo senza di te non si potrebbe vivere." My Italian sucks. "Tu che prima di diventare grano eri sottoterra, dove tutti I segreti sono nascosti, porta I tuoi segreti a questo pasto e benedici con prosperità e protezione," which means I conjure you, rice, you who are our body. Without you, one could not live. You who before becoming grain were under the earth where all secrets are hidden. Bring your secrets to this meal and bless us with prosperity and protection. So every ingredient. Scott Cunningham's book will tell you, you can take your favorite recipe and look up every ingredient in there. And you might even want to enchant some of your own meals. I can't wait to cook this later, because it's a fun thing. And you just have to extemporaneously understand what's going on. If I were doing it the traditional Strega way, if I were using all the things that I can't share live, I would have two pictures, either of a god and a goddess or saints. I mean, everybody in Italy is using saints. I have a very funny story about Saint Lucy that I'm going to tell you while this is cooking. It's a riot, actually. So you're bringing masculine and feminine energy. Last week we spoke about the animus and the anima having to be balanced, and that's what we're doing with the energy that we're putting in this food. And I remember when I was staying there, I was staying as a house guest of the woman who was training me, and I had kitchen privileges. And I remember getting up, it was around lunchtime, and I was going to make something to eat. And I was poking around the kitchen. I think it was like my first or second day there. And I finally found a spoon to stir something that I was making. And she came running out of the living room like Evelina flying out of the garbage can and pushed me and took, "No, not that spoon, this spoon. This is my special spoon." And I'm like, all right. And then finally she taught me. And what was really cool about it is that I said everything centers around the kitchen, the hearth. So this goes all the way back to the understanding of Vesta and what fire does for us. It keeps us warm. It cooks our food. It keeps us healthy in the winter. So now you have one big bowl of Fortuna's magic rice. And this is what it looks like. You see every grain is coated. Now, when I learned how to do this, I was told that what I had to do was dry it. You know, what you do now is you lay it all out flat on a board. You let it dry in the dark. I put mine in the pantry. I'm getting all the grains that I dropped because I want everything in there that was all enchanted. So now this is actually buzzing in the bowl. It's very cool. And I thought this is an awful lot of rice because you put 1 grain in your wallet, a couple of grains in your jewelry box, maybe 2 or 3 in your cash register. You can make a little pouch and carry it around. But I don't need this much. But Strega is also about putting energy into food and putting magic in food and cooking. So I got this brilliant idea. And before we start getting into the meal, I'd like to bring Stacy on. Turn your mic, turn your pack on. Because we finally got these cool little mics where 2 of us can actually talk on them now. Say hello to everybody.
Ciao.
Ciao, 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 Bella.
Hi.
This is Stacy's kitchen. I think it's fabulous. And
Yes.
I can't thank her enough for doing this with me. So what I like, why don't you let me give you some of this so you can dry it out and you can have this charm for yourself.
Okay, how am I doing that?
You have a little dish or something that you can put it in and then you can just put it somewhere to dry later.
Just like a
Yeah, I just want to, maybe like a little bowl is cool, just to get it out of here, because now we're going to start messing around.
You want to light it flat or something? Or something small?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to need, unless you have, how much money do you have? How much rice do you need? Do you have billions of dollars?
No,
Okay.
but I would like some.
All right, so what you do, you can give it away to people. Here, I'll give you a little bit more.
Okay, I guess that's a big bowl.
Yeah, and then just let it dry in the dark somewhere.
Okay.
You can put it in the pantry or whatever. So now we have this rice. So I'm thinking, what has so much basil in it that I would enjoy? And I was thinking pesto. So one of the things that I learned there, because I visited several families that were Strega, and when I was in Parma, it's like being a sous chef. It's fabulous. I mean, you learn the words, you learn the incantations, you learn all about the tradition, but it's all about cooking and how to make a meal magical. And Parma is in the north. They raise a lot of pigs. I mean, that's where prosciutto comes from, ham. So it's sort of a northern province, a lot of grain, a lot of pork. So I did learn this dish there, but we cooked it as a risotto, which I'm not going to do tonight. If you want to, if you don't have to live stream it and don't mind taking 30 to 40 minutes stirring it in a ladle at a time, you would get a different rice. You would get arborio rice or any short grain rice, because short grain rice has more starch in it. So as you cook, it thickens up the whole dish. So we already have this done. This is already enchanted. Let's put them over there. And now we've got to start. And here's my recipe. So I like cooking mise en place, which means that everything is prepared. Do you have some small Tupperwares or just anything?
Little bowls?
Bowls are good.
How many?
Unless you want to work out your dishwasher, you know.
Here,
I
like
need
this?
1, 2, 3. I just need 3.
Bigger?
One that would hold the onion. Yeah. Actually, I can put the onion in here. So we're good with that.
Here's bowls. Bowls.
Bowls.
There's
Just
a
a
bowl.
queen. If I had them, I'd be king. Cool.
You need, here's a little
No,
bowl.
we're good. You want to do this?
I'm like
You
your
want to chop?
I'll do what do you want me to
Would you say do what you
do?
want?
What do you want me to do?
I want you to enjoy yourself.
Okay, I'll try.
And you can heckle me. You can do anything you want. I'm keeping this here for refuse because I am that obsessive of a cook. Now, the thing with this dish is that everything needs to have a lot of texture. So we're going to be chopping things very coarsely, or as they say in Italy, crudo, because we want chunk in there. And we have some amazing ingredients here. And they all combine beautifully. There's a tension between the sweet and the savory that goes in here. We have endive and, of course, onion and basil, and we have prosciutto, which I'm going to teach you how to work, because the original recipe called for speck. But if you can believe it, all of our fancy specialty stores on the Upper West Side, nobody had speck. But the way you can fake that is you can use regular prosciutto and then add liquid smoke to it. Liquid smoke is condensed mesquite or hickory. There are no chemicals in it, as I thought that they were. And what they do is they actually condense it. They have the smoke going. It goes through a tube. It goes through ice, which condenses it, and then it just drips. And it is right here. So excellent thing if you can't find speck. I'm supposed to be letting the knife do the work, but that's not working, is it? And smell the onion from here. I love it. Okay, and then big. We want it big. We don't want little minced pieces that are going to dissolve into anything. We want to keep a lot of texture in this dish because it is a very hearty meal and it is delicious. Okay, so if you can see, I have this. So we want large pieces. And if anybody has any questions or would like to come on screen, please let us know. Scott Harney will bring you on. I'm looking at my phone. Don't you love the way the chat line says, say something nice? What if I don't want to say anything nice? I always wondered about that. So, scongiurate, onion. I conjure you, onion, to bring protection and prosperity to all who partake in you. When we consume you later as a meal, I call upon the goddess Fortuna to bless you with prosperity and protection as fierce as she was when she protected her people and kept her people fed. Next thing. Okay, so there's one. Garlic. I love prepping garlic because you get to really smash it. Do you know anything about this at all? Have you ever worked with Strega spaces? You're just hiding out?
I'm hiding.
She's hiding. You can be my sous chef. Yeah. So for this amount, I think we probably could use 2 big cloves. Yeah. And then, best way to get these done without struggling, scongiurate aioli. Yep, and then you just take it out, and there it is. All the paper is off. And again, you chop it very crudely. You don't want fine. Actually, I like my garlic fine. So, and while you're doing this, if I were not on screen and having to talk, I would be focusing on all of that energy coming up through the earth, down my arm, into my knife, and understanding the qualities, the attributes of garlic, and making sure that every bit of it was alive and raring to go to combine with everything. And we'll just put our garlic.
Put it right in?
Well, the onion has to go in first, and we probably need more oil because we want it to be like pesto-ish. Why don't I put it on the lid? On the little lid. Now, the next ingredient. There are not a lot of ingredients in this dish, and it is really delicious. Radicchio, but not the round radicchio. The round radicchio, there are 2 kinds of radicchio in Italy. There's the long ones and the round ones. The round ones are more acidic. They're more like cabbage. The long ones, believe it or not, they look like endive, were cultivated much earlier. The round ones eventually evolved over time, and they have a little bit of a different flavor to them, but we want the long ones because they're a little sweeter. If you can't find the long radicchios, you can get an endive like I did here today because nobody in our specialty markets has long radicchio. I should stop paying my bills in this neighborhood. And again, to make it very crude, you just do 1 cut, turn it a quarter, do it that way, and then just chop, slice. And you need to reserve half of this because some of it is going to be cooked in the meal, and the rest of it is going to be used as a garnish for a little bit of crunch. So this is going in. Let's take a little bit out of there, and this will be kept aside. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Somebody's getting hungry, she said. That's good. Okay, so as I said, I line everything up in the order that it needs to go in. So first thing is onions, then garlic, then you can buy a piece of prosciutto about 1/4 inch thick, have them do one slice, don't have them slice it thin. Or if you can find speck, have them cut it thin, and then you can cut it in cubes. But up here, we do have it cubed. So we're good. And what we're going to do, now if I were using a saint card, I would use Saint Anthony the Abbot. Not because he has my name. He was nuts. He was from Egypt, but Egypt at that time had already been Romanized. And he's not like that lovely little St. Anthony that's always seen holding the baby and being very sweet and kind. This guy was off the hook, man. He went into the desert. When he cast all the demons out of town, he went into the desert looking for more. It's like, bring it, bitches. Take it. Take it right to me. And he threw the demons into wild boars. And then the boars were killed, slaughtered, cooked, and they fed the village. He is also the patron saint of pigs, not human ones. And also pig farmers. And he is very popular in Parma. So when we were making this dish, we did have speck from their smokehouses, but we had a little picture of St. Anthony the Abbot or St. Anthony of the Desert. Look him up. His story is crazy. The man was like off his rocker, but really, really tough. So this would be for protection. So what we're doing is we're putting in elements of prosperity, protection, a little bit of love, a little bit of friendship, because we need that happening too. The endive is lust or love. We're not going to have people screwing at the table, but love is a good element to put into this dish so that everybody that you share it with is truly your friend and, you know, brings you that kind of joy. You want to share it with people that you love and make them enhance that part of themselves, along with getting rich and being safe. So we're going to put these in a bowl, and we're going to really focus on St. Anthony the Abbot and his crazy story. And we're going to add a little bit of liquid smoke because we do want it to taste the way it should. Oh, well, I was never the neatest cook, but that's fine. And always cook, always stir or fold clockwise, and feel that energy coming through your feet, all of that protective energy, because, you know, that zombie apocalypse jumps off. You want to be next to St. Anthony the Abbot or Isabel, because those two were pretty nuts. Okay, so where are we here? We have that, And now we do have a lemon, and that's for later. That's for dressing it later. So how are we doing?
You want it warm, right? Or you want it?
Well, let's see. So what we have to do is we have to get everything together, and then we have to bless it, because we are dedicating this and invoking Fortuna. So you now call her. You just keep your hands over everything, because don't forget what I said. It's your hands, your knife, and your wooden spoon are your most powerful ritual tools. I call you Fortuna, goddess of fate, goddess of fortune. With fire and herb, I summon you to bring me what I ask. Bless my life with your magic touch. Bless me with wealth and fortune. And then you feel that energy coming out of your hands, and you just impart it into all of the ingredients. And then, because everybody here is looking at me like I'm crazy, and when I'm cooking at home, they say, where's the food? We begin. We always start clockwise. We keep that energy coming up through our feet and feel it coming through our body, down our arm, down our hand, into our ritual tool. And we start. Well, maybe not. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that'll be heating up in a minute. I hope. And what you do is you cook them for about 3 to 5 minutes until they soften and become transparent before we start adding the rest of our things here. And we got to get wine because that is also in the order that we're going to be using them. Keisha Brown wants to know, what would you substitute for the pork if you don't eat meat? Question from Keisha's boo, Alex. Did I say pigs of Malokia? No, I did not say pigs of Malokia. Malokia is a whole other lesson that we may learn some other time. You can leave it out. You can leave it out. You know, when I suggest enchanting any recipe that you have, you don't have to liven up every ingredient. You might want to do just some of them.
You want me to stir?
Do you mind? Would you mind terribly? You my sous chef. You don't have to do every single ingredient. You could do some of them, one of them, two of them, all of them, none of them. Use your imagination. It's just a really cool way to share energy because once it's consumed by the person eating it, they're going to absorb every single bit of love and whatever energy you put into this food. And it's going to work in their life. It's going to enhance their life. And this is why in Italy, breaking bread with your friends is such an important gesture. You don't eat with people you don't like. You know, you don't break, you can do anything else you want with them, but you don't break bread with people that you don't like. So if you don't eat meat, don't use the meat. It tastes just as good without it. I've made it without it, and it's just as delicious. So we just continue doing that. Do we have anything else? Any other questions? We have something in there. Let's see, because I'm using my phone. Is it best to be grounded to the earth by being barefoot? Yes, it is. I always cook barefoot. But over time, and depending on where I'm cooking, like when I was living in the Caribbean, and I didn't want to stand barefoot on thorns in the forest over my little campfire, I wore sandals. But you can, it takes you a little longer to connect when you have shoes on, but barefoot is always good. And focus, focus, focus. Do not live stream and do Strega ritual because you're distracted by the camera. And you'll see, I hope you do this. I hope all of you do this. I hope you play with it. And you'll see what I mean when you really completely sequester yourself. You remember to have a candle, a glass of water, because you need fire and water as elements. The earth is in all of the ingredients that we're using. The air is all around us. And the spirit is in your heart when you're preparing, when you're feeling this energy come through you. And it's quite something. As I said, the Strega are typically very tight-lipped, very closed about what they do and sharing their secrets. And when I was brought in, I was sworn to secrecy. And what's interesting to me is how the religion survived. Because at first, in ancient Rome and also in Etruria, before people started getting burnt at the stake for wanting to share energy, you would, how can I explain it? I'm just losing my train of thought. You would pray, you would share with each other, you would partake. Everybody really got along. But then little by little, things had to get really tight-lipped. So the funny things were that even the gods, I mean, they all knew about Dea Dia, they all knew about Fortuna, they all knew about Acca Laurentia. But what's interesting is that there's a main god. But then you also have, you can use your ancestors, anybody who passed before you can bring them to the table. You can bring, every household had their favorite saint, because in Strega, it's very much like in Santeria, there are Orisha in Santeria. They're bigger than men, smaller than gods. In Voodoo, there are Loa, bigger than men, smaller than gods. In Roman Catholicism, there are saints, bigger than men, smaller than gods. And they are used in a number of ways, and they all have attributes. So the house that I was trained in, the main god was Saint Nicholas, because he was all about generosity and also something to do with children and protection. But depending on the work they were doing, how are we doing with it? Okay. Depending on the work they were doing, they would often bring one out. Now, the family that I stayed with, Benevento is a small town. I think it's like maybe 15,000 people. And I made the mistake of calling it a beautiful village, which really pissed them off because they insist that they're cosmopolitan. And so, of course, I apologized appropriately and kept on calling them a metropolis just so nobody would get annoyed with me. But there was something going on there. There was something going on there that nobody wanted to talk about. I'm not going to say they were crooked, but there was something about, okay, I'll give you an example. One day I get up and Isabel's hysterical. Her son, Salvatore, was taken away by the police. And I says, well, what happened? She said that, what did she call it? Buttana fragida, which means filthy whore, next door, dropped a dime on him. So basically the guy was a little connected and the neighbor woman, her name was Teresina, reported him and the police got him. I says, oh my God, what do we have to do? Do we have to get a lawyer? She says, oh, no. Everybody knows the Salvatore, he'll be home soon. It's just formality, but I can't believe she met you, because basically she told me that the police had to take him, otherwise they would have looked shady. And sure enough, 2-3 hours later, he's home, the police come in with him, they're drinking, they're having coffee, they're having wine, they're having biscuit, and everybody's having fun. And Isabel was fuming, so the next day she wakes me up at the crack of dawn. And she says, I'm gonna cook for Teresina. I'm gonna make her a meal. I says, she just like had your son thrown in the slammer. What do you mean you're gonna? She goes, you're gonna see. She not gonna see, but you're gonna see. And she's laughing her ass off. And I'm like, and I'm looking at her son, and he's cracking up. I said, what's so funny? He said, oh, she's up to no good today. So we go downtown and we buy eggplants and we bought cheeses and plum tomatoes and all these wonderful fresh ingredients. And she takes a picture of St. Lucy out. Now, I don't know how many of you know about St. Lucy, but the picture she had was she's standing with a golden plate in front of her with her eyes are gouged out and her eyeballs are on the plate. And I'm like, well, that's a little grisly. And she goes, you gonna see, but she not gonna see. She's saying that all day long. And she's sifting through the flour because she made her eggplant. She did not bread it. She was making eggplant parmesan. She did something called the pastello, which is like a thin pancake batter. And it's almost like tempura. It's really light as a feather. You got to try it, man. It's really cool. Scongiuro te farina, that bitch. And she's cursing her out and she's putting all this energy and she's working up a sweat and her son's cracking up in the other room. I'm just watching her do this. And then it's finally done. And she says, come, I want to show you. I want to show you Strega. And I says, okay. So we go down the street and Teresina answers the door, big smile on her face. And she sees the dish in Isabel's hand. She turns white as a sheet. And Isabel's like, Teresina, I made you something. I want you to try it. She said, oh, no. I said, no, I want you to taste it right now. Because if it's not good, I'm going to have to fix it. Taste it. And this woman got a look on her face. Imagine a spy who got caught and there's nothing left to do except the cyanide pill. And that minute before you take, like, you know it's going to kill you, but you have no other choice because we don't know how mobbed up Isabel's family was. So maybe Teresina had to do as she was told. So, but while she was making this meal, she was blasting. She got records out. I think it might have even been a 33 RPM of Enrico Caruso singing Santa Lucia, which was driving me up the wall. So everything was dedicated to Lucia and the eyes, because she is the patron saint of eye problems. If you have any eye issues, you could pray to her. Her personal story said that there were two. One of them said that she promised that she would never marry. She wanted to dedicate her life to God. And somehow she got a suitor. And the guy complimented her eyes, so she gouged them out and put them on a plate and handed it to him. If you gouge your eyes out, you can't put them on a plate. You can't see the damn plate. The other one, which I think is even more interesting and probably truer, is that when the Romans discovered her that she was a virgin, which in those days meant a free woman, they wanted to bring her to a temple and be a virgin at the temple, which basically had sex. And she went there for training and she refused to learn. She refused to come out of her room. She refused to look anybody in the eye. So they took her eyes out and left her blind. But then once she was canonized, she was helpful for anybody who had problems with their sight or their vision. So now, Isabel's telling me all day long, you're going to see, but she's not going to see. So Teresina eats a little bit of the eggplant. She goes, you want me to go home and fix? You need seasoning. She says, no. It's good. Next day at dawn, we hear ambulances. Teresina's blind. For 3 days and 3 nights, they couldn't find a single thing wrong with her. But my mentor, along with St. Lucy, made sure that she would never see anything again that she could report to the police. And I guess that's how that story ended. It isn't all like that in Italy, but that was a really funny thing that happened to me. But that's what a lot of this brings back when I think about it. Because when I think of her sifting the flour and there was sweat pouring, she was cursing. And I mean, she was really putting everything into it. And sure enough, little lady went blind. Now we add our garlic.
3 days.
Yeah, just 3 days. 3 days and 3 nights, which is how long St. Anthony the Abbot. So now this is beginning to smell really good. The onions are getting soft. We don't want them too soft because we do want them to have a lot of texture. We want some crunch in there. Whenever you're cooking garlic, if you overcook it, it's going to get a little bitter. So just let it get fragrant before you start adding other things. And a couple more minutes. And then we add the prosciutto. And I have to look on my phone because I do not have X-ray vision. What did you say she was? Who? That your youngest fan? Okay, is watching with great interest. 9 months. Who has 9 months out there? Who's 9 months old? Okay, what did you say she was? Say who was. I guess I'll never know. The neighbor. Oh, she was just a neighbor. Her name was Teresina. Means it's a cute form of Teresa, like little Teresa. So she got Teresina. Yeah. It was. Oh my God, Billy, the baby. Oh my God, I can't see anybody's name on this. I don't know why, but that's okay. I can't see names next to the chat. I would have known. I'm so happy. Is Billy getting hungry? Billy is adorable. Yes. Giant baby. He's like about as tall. Stacy and I are like the size of the average 8th grader. And Billy, at 9 months, is probably up to here on me now. I'm happy. And I hope, is anybody at home cooking along? Okay. So now.
What your mentor called her.
No, she called her Puttana Fragida, which means dirty whore. Or filthy whore. It's very special. It's a term of endearment that, you usually save it for the holidays when you really want to impress someone. Okay. Again, every time that we put an ingredient into the pan, we bring that energy up from the earth through our body, through our hands, into our tool. And now we're adding the smoked prosciutto. And we could also put a little bit of salt and pepper in there. Get that happening. Because the prosciutto is a little salty, so we don't want to do too much. We're going to do a little bit more later. Got to get some fresh ground pepper in there. If you want to use other spices, look them up in this book. Find out what attributes they have. You can actually hang like a bat and read it that way, or you can turn it the right way. So it's really fun. This is a great reference book for this kind of work, any kind of magic cooking. I'm delighted that my little 9-month-old Billy, I'm your Uncle Trouble, Billy. I can't wait for you to come up to New York and hang out. Can't wait. Oh, that sounds, somebody made a great spaghetti squash. That's really good. So, anybody have any questions or anybody want to share anything with us? Because it's smelling good, it's feeling good. You could actually feel the energy coming out of the kitchen. Yes, I am indeed Uncle Trouble. All right. So now it looks like it might be time to add the endive. And this doesn't need that long. You just want it to wilt a little bit. So I'm going to bring this over to the camera. I mean, what we have here is like amazing. Look at that. That is like so cool.
It smells so good.
It is good. It tastes really good too. Oh, you know what? We need chicken stock or something. We need 24. Let's see, we have 16 ounces of rice, so we need 24 ounces of that. And just for the hell of it, we'll throw a little bit more salt in there. Pepper. I need 24. Let's throw a little wine in there to deglaze everything. Might as well deglaze me a little. Want some? And now it's time to stir in Fortuna's magic rice. Or you can just have a charm that will last you the rest of your life. Because there's so much here, and it's so much better when it's consumed than laying in the cash register or the drawer. But do keep some for that purpose. And then what you do is you make sure that everything gets coated and mixed together. And do we have a lid for this?
Yep.
Good. So again, you're folding, you're stirring always clockwise. How much we got?
That's
24?
No, that's 16.
Okay. So now, rule of thumb with rice, if you're using 2 cups, you use whatever you use, you do 1.5 of the same measure of liquid. And we're using jasmine rice because I love the flavor of it. You slowly add it, mix it in. Oh, way to go, Anthony. I just got it on your floor, Stace. I know. Hate me.
Kidding.
That was 16, you said?
That was 16.
Okay, so we just need 8.
Yep.
Okay. Not the magic spoon. Okay, and then you bring this up to a boil, and then once it boils, we can actually bring it up high, get this moving.
Sorry.
That's a no. I was smiling. You're really being very sweet. Then we're going to be talking about some other Strega stuff too. Would you call me? Yeah, cooking bitch. I'm your putana fragida in the kitchen, everything. I'm assuming that the stock has salt in it.
Probably. I have a lot of salt. I admit.
Okay, so then you bring it to a simmer and cover it for a whopping 15 minutes. So now we have 15 minutes to talk. Other things, anybody in Italian families? The book was called Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. I'll bring it up to the camera. They do have it at Barnes & Noble. I saw it. It needs light, doesn't it? I checked the other day.
Oh, good.
Almost forgot something. I always add a bay leaf. Bay is great for protection. Sometimes I put in toasted pine nuts. Pine is also about protection. And bay leaves are almost as fun to enliven as garlic and pounding it, because you can pretend it's somebody that needs a good slap and scongioro to bring out. And you should always do this with fresh bay leaves, and also crumble them, because that'll bring their essence out. And we should throw two of them in there.
You smacking what? What are you doing?
You smack it, and what it does is it forces all the essential oils out, and it brings out a lot more flavor and helps it work its way with the food a little bit more. Or crumble them up. Even dry ones, you should crack them to let everything infuse that way. So now we have to set a timer for 15 minutes. And we're going to do that, and then we're going to talk about other things. I know that Alex is of Italian extraction, and he told Keisha that he was excited about this because he wanted to learn more about his heritage. But anybody else out there, Stacy, did you have a grandmother or an aunt? Remember the prayer of the eyes?
Prayer of the eyes?
Yeah. Did you ever hear about it? Did anybody say, can you do the eyes?
No.
It's a series of prayers. Many of them are Catholic prayers, but they have that one incantation that is indigenous only to families. So it was to remove the evil eye. And it's very interesting because there's a lot of historical references that you can extrapolate when you hear the whole ceremony. You start with water. Should be holy water. And Isabel and even Granny O, my mentor in Brooklyn, who actually initiated me during midnight mass on Christmas in the Catholic Church, and nobody messed with her because they were all afraid of her. She actually poured the water over my hands because it's a way of seeing if you have bad vibes, and there's a great way to remove it. And it reminds me very much of a biblical story, because what you're doing is you're putting it into the water, and you're using olive oil, and olives are, what did we say their property was? We didn't say anything because I can't find it.
Oh, there it is
Under the what?
board.
Okay. Olives. I didn't write it here, so let's grab Scott's book like you should once you buy it. Olives, because you have olive oil. Olive, here we go. Deities are Athena, Apollo, Irene, Minerva, and Ra. Powers are healing, peace, fertility, potency, protection, and lust. So it would be about the protective aspect of it, because what you did is you floated on holy water, and then you say prayers over it. You say the usual 3 Hail Marys, 1 Our Father, and Apostles' Creed. There's a psalm, and psalms are very powerful. A lot of ethnic spiritual traditions use psalms, and they are very powerful for healing or protection or whatever you want to use them for. That's why they are still in the Bible. And then at the end, each family has their own spell. And to be honest with you, the spell is the most important part of the ritual work. And then what you do is you get an empty bowl, and you have the afflicted person put their hands over it, and then you pour the water over their hands, and then you bring it outside and you cast it into crossroads. Nobody ever stopped me on the corner of 82nd and Amsterdam casting water into the crosswalk, because that is crossroads, so you can't say that you live in a city and you can't find them. But it reminded me an awful lot of Pontius Pilate, who was given the task by Herod to crucify Jesus of Nazareth, and he's like, no way, man. So he washed his hands and threw it into the crowd, because when you're throwing it into the crossroads, you're allowing all the energies to come and take it away. So you're basically taking it out of the person and casting it to the four corners of the earth, much like Pontius Pilate did in that biblical story. But every family has a different incantation. And I'll share one of the ones, because I have three families actually that shared. And I'll share my own family's one, because my aunt, who I adore so much, both of my grandmothers on both sides of the family knew how to say the eyes. It's called la Malocchia. I mean, the evil eye. But none of them would teach it to me. And my Aunt Martine on my mother's side had it, and my Aunt Melly on my dad's side. And many years later, I was writing a column for the Italian Tribune newspaper called La Vecchia Credenza, which means the old beliefs. And she finally taught it to me. And it sounds like a rhyme. It's tre sono più potente le occhio e le cuore e le mente, tre defende, tre referende, scopio malocchio. And what that means, there are no three more powerful than the eyes, the heart, and the mind. And what's interesting, in a lot of ancient anthropology studies, we found that when people passed away, their heart, their brain, and their eyes were consumed by their eldest, second eldest, and third eldest child, so that those children took in the feelings, the way to see or see through things, and also the brain. So this goes way, way, way back. And I'm not suggesting that my family were cannibals, although a couple of them really sucked in the kitchen. I mean, they were not great cooks. But it's 3 to defend, 3 to tear and burst the evil eye. And when you say scopio, which means burst, you have to slap your hands together. And that's how they would do it. They would say all these prayers, they would whisper them, they would mumble them, they would have the holy cards out and everything. And then they would put their hand on your head and pour the water on your hands with the other hand and say that incantation and then throw it to the crossroads. So a lot of that still exists. Okay. How do you do that by yourself? How do you do it by yourself? Well, you do it. You do it by yourself. I'd take the heart as far as, but I really wish I could see names on this chat line, because all I'm seeing is white circles with no names. Yeah. See what's, so I can't, are there names there? Because somebody's very funny. Oh, I see that name, but there's others I don't hear. Keisha, yeah, I saw that there. So who wants the heart? Write your name. Say it now. We already got to the question. Okay, so while we're waiting for that, which smells delicious, take it for a little spin. We can probably turn this up to medium or low. How are you liking the smell of it? Yeah. Anything you would like to add? No? You're just hiding there?
I'm just listening to the show.
Okay. And if anybody else has anything that they'd like to say, please put it in chat. Seeing you in the kitchen doing your magic. Oh, okay. That was Sarah and Eric. Okay, yeah. That had to have been Eric who wants the heart as far as food.
Oh, she wants to eat the heart?
Yeah. They're a little tough, Eric. You're gonna have to marinate them for a couple of weeks.
Oh.
And that's it. So our food is cooking, and anything else you'd like to know, please ask. And if there's nothing else you'd like to know, I can probably run my mouth for a little while. Trying to go over my notes and see if there was anything I left out of the history of it. I don't know where anything is. And how many people out there are going to try this meal? It's really delicious. None of you, huh? apple cider. Is there any references to angels like Archangel Michael and Strega? They use Catholic prayers a lot. They have to, because when the Inquisition was happening, they had to hide what they were doing. They couldn't let it be known. So they did kind of intermingle it, very much like Santeria, Candomblé, Voodoo, all of those traditions, those pre-Christian, pre-Judaic traditions, had to mask themselves with saints. So they do find the attributes. They do use Michael as a great protector. They call on San Miguel a lot, but he is also masked as an aspect of one of their elder deities, or their older deities, I should say. His family has a lot of that in there. He should ask his family if anybody knows anything about the Malocchio, Malocchio, means evil. Malaccio means evil. Every Italian family has that. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to admit it. But every time somebody gets a headache, or every time somebody's having some bad luck, they'll call up the person in that generation who was given the prayers and the information. And people do it over the phone. I know my aunt would get phone calls from some of my cousins or some of her siblings. One that even lived in California. It's like, you got to do the eyes for me. I have some bad luck here. And she would say the prayer, and the person would then pour the water over their own hands, and then cast it into a crossroads. If you lived in the woods, you would find a crossroads. If you lived in a city, you would use a street corner. Now, also, the ritual tool for that, I almost left this out, is a scissor. Just a regular kitchen scissor. And what you're doing as you're saying the prayers and as you're Tre sono più potente, you're cutting through the oil, because the way it works, and this really does work. I couldn't believe it happened. They said, if something is present, the oil will break up into 1,000,000 little drops. And if if it's good, it'll break up into 1,000,000 little drops. If there's evil present, it will form into one big glob. And then that's what you have to cut through with your scissor. But when the Inquisitor came to the door, you were just cutting something. So a lot of this is bound in secrecy, which is why they're still very tight-lipped about sharing their tradition and their secrets and their ritual. City folks who are afraid. A lot of people are. Well, the way a lot of people here are afraid to talk about anything that isn't ordinary. But the thing is, it's in every single family. I know a lot of Latinos whose grandparents and even their parents worship the Orisha, but you'll never hear them talk about it. I have students who have asked their parents. I have a Cuban guy that's a student of mine right now, and they do Palo Mayombe in Cuba. Everybody does, whether they admit it or not. And when he asked his father about it, his father got very stern and says, we don't talk about that. So it isn't that it doesn't exist. They are very, very tight-lipped about it. And a lot of it goes back to traditions that were begun during the Inquisition, where you had to deny it. You couldn't admit that you participated in any of this, because you would have got killed. It's sort of like Omerta and the mafia, keeping your mouth shut at any cost, or you get killed. Same with my Italian family, very secretive about everything. Yes. Yeah, people also are shamed into not talking about it, because they don't want to admit that they believe in this, because it's supposed to be something for fools or superstition, and you're not a smart person if you believe in this sort of thing. Happens all the time. It happened with Jews during the Holocaust. So when you think about what these people went through, I mean, they couldn't reveal their true religion. Many of them denied that they were Jewish just so that they could stay alive. So we're looking at oppression. Very much, it's kind of spooky. It's almost going on again today. If you say the wrong thing, you're canceled. You're vilified. You're sued. You're put in jail. You're erased from Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. So we're kind of getting there again. I think everybody should start stirring the pot with a little bit of Strega magic and get these people satisfied. Give them something to make them happy, so that we don't have to deal with them anymore. But yeah, it is in denial, and it is kept very dark. Even the Vatican has has so many books and so many statues and all of this art, all of this pagan art that they're hiding because they don't want the people to see it, so they can deny it and say it never existed. But every archetype is present in every religion, and every archetype deserves respect. Just because I've learned about Strega and practice it from time to time doesn't mean that I don't believe in any other religions. I was raised Roman Catholic. I've investigated all kinds of things. I've been initiated into voodoo. I've studied everything. I mean, everything in the world, from the most benign to the most insane. And what I find is that I connect with a higher power. It's just a different flavor from every civilization. And those were designed to suit the people that lived there, loved there, and died there. They personify their own beliefs and from their own context, but it's all the same story. It's just sad that so many people are browbeaten and bullied into being quiet or into submission. Okay, same with my smaller towns and older generations can talk more about Strega. True. They can. The older people, well, I mean, I'm going to be 70 next year. I didn't even turn 69 yet. That's next month, but I don't care about that. I want to hit the big 7-0. So what do I care? What are you going to put me in jail? It's not like I have my whole life ahead of me. So I think those of us who are a little older really don't give a damn about talking about it at this point in our lives. Plus, we've earned our stripes. I'm not ashamed of anything I do, especially because I don't limit myself to one tradition. It depends on the challenge that I have. If I'm in trouble and I need to be defended or I need to be protected, I'm not going to pray to Jesus. I'll pray to him when I need to be compassionate. Okay, because he was all about love and compassion. He was not a warrior. But I'm in trouble. That's my 15 minutes. Our timer is that. If I need defense, I'm going straight to Ogun. Okay, I'll find some crazy mother to come and kick butt for me. Jesus is not going to do it. The turning the other cheek only goes so far. Somebody's coming at you with a sword. You need another guy with a sword, or you need to learn how to use one and invoke that into yourself and use it on your own. So it's all appropriate depending on the circumstances and your morals. So let's see how we're doing over here. Just about. I'd say we got about another few minutes, and then we can try it. Looks great.
It smells delicious.
Yeah, it is. Also, I'll take this time to mention again that I'm going to be teaching workshops starting at the end of this month, possibly the beginning of May. So now you have an idea of my my style of teaching. When somebody wrote salt and pepper here, well, yeah, salt and pepper in the kitchen, I get it. Mama Urzuli Dantor is my go-to warrior. Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, that's a dish that she could enjoy, too, because there's pork in it, and her whole thing is about, you always prepare pork as an offering to Dantor. She's scrappy. She's very, very scrappy. So now you have an idea of the tenor and the tone of what my teaching style is like. It's kind of casual, but it does get to the point. When I'm not live on camera, I don't have to speak every minute. So there's a lot more time for eye contact and back and forth. But they are going to be available online at a reduced price because all I can really do is do the lecture and Q&A. If you take them in person, we're going to be doing them at Astro West, 102 West 79th Street. And the difference there is that after the lecture and the questions and answer period, we actually do things hands-on. And then I'm able to give individual attention to everyone in the room. And because it's my gig, there's always like a couple of bottles of wine or something going down. There's always a party happening at the Zodiac Lounge. And I should have announced this in the beginning because I bet you a bunch of people split already. I'm going to start working there on every Sunday. So if you want to come visit me tomorrow, Astro West, corner of Columbus and West 79th Street from 11 to 7, I will be there, as always, wearing a fabulous pair of shoes. Probably fat as a pig from eating all of this tonight. But do come in on Sundays, and we are opening the downstairs, which is the healing center. And Stacy, who is for some reason not coming on camera, she can. Stacy is a homeopath, and is your battery on?
No.
I got it. So you can say a few words about what you do and what you will be doing there.
I'm a homeopath.
That's cute.
Yeah, so I could do readings and take a homeopathic case, which is very often just talking, getting to know somebody. And I think right now it's a good time for homeopathy because it's energy and kind of like an energetic battle going on out there. So it's a good form of medicine for the times. And yeah, I'll be there doing all the things that I do.
Which are?
Readings,
Crystal healing.
Oh yeah.
Come on.
I mean, I have a pretty big. I'm old too, so I'm a yoga teacher. I've done a lot of things in my life. I've done, yeah. So I just incorporate all of the things. I studied a little with the shamans and did my plant medicines and work with crystals and tarot. And I love energy. Energy's my thing, and understanding our bodies through the energetic. So,
and also Scott Wass fans, he works there on Saturday, so that's going to be sort of our unofficial headquarters because Stacy, Scott, and I are going to be running the wellness center downstairs, and we have 2 treatment rooms and a great waiting area, and we're turning it into a real deal, authentic metaphysical store, of which there are none left in New York.
And you need them
We are going to be the only brick and mortar. So we're already looking at merchandise that we're bringing in. We're going to have a lot of homeopathic remedies. We're making our own incense. I'm very happy about it. It's got a really cool name, but I'm not going to tell you until it's copyrighted. But it's going to be awesome. Scott Wass is just, yeah, he said he just told a bunch of people in the store about the healing center. I bet you they didn't know about it. How are we doing here? Okay, so we're about done. You want to touch that with your hand?
Well, no, I don't want to.
Oh my God. Okay. So now that this is done, it has all been absorbed.
Yum.
Should I put this in the sink?
Yeah.
The only thing we have to do, because I woke up some lemon, and lemon is about love. It's a lunar thing, and I'm bringing the energy into it because this needs a little bit of acid. Imagine a little LSD.
So it's really going to be great.
Yeah, you're going to love it. You'll see.
You'll love it.
Oh, good. Okay, Scott Wass said that everybody loved the idea, and he told everyone that they can get certified with us, which you can, because we have many training courses. Many of them are certificated. So there's a lot of great training that's going to be going on down there, as well as live streaming and everything else. But that's done. And I'm feeling the energy in my hand as I am squeezing all this lemon all over your beautiful stove. It really does make a difference. Let's mix it up. Give it a minute to sit there. Oh my God, it smells so good.
It does. My mouth's watering.
Really? Good. Okay. So that's it. Now you serve it, you eat it. Tutti a tavola, come eat, get rich, get safe over here. I appreciate everything. You don't know how to cook, you can learn how to cook. No, you cannot use Scott Wass's wand to cook.
Too bad.
You got to keep it secret. That's why you have a plain old kitchen knife and a plain old wooden spoon. So what I would like to say is thank you to everybody. I'd like to thank Scott Harney he's the CEO of, my mind's going blank again, Esoteric New York, for hosting us and for also being behind the scenes and working everything in the control room, cooking, talking, and live streaming is making me a little stunad, and if anybody here is Italian, you know what that means. So thank you for coming. I will see you next week. Eat, be happy, love, and see you then.
Bye, everybody.